This afternoon, the Trump campaign filed a lawsuit to stop the counting of ballots in Pennsylvania. That is simply wrong. It goes against the most basic principles of our democracy. It takes away the right of every American citizen to cast their vote and to choose our leaders. Our election officials at the state and local levels should be free to do their jobs without fear, without intimidation, without attacks. These attempts to subvert the democratic process are simply disgraceful. We're going to fight every single attempt to disenfranchise voters. We will continue to administer free and fair elections in Pennsylvania. Let me be clear, in Pennsylvania, every vote is going to count. I'm going to fight like hell to protect the vote of every Pennsylvanian. We have to have fair elections, and those elections have to be free of external influences. We need to have confidence that people are choosing their leaders and that the leaders are not choosing the people who vote for them. We need to make sure that the voters are choosing the leaders, not the other way around.
Prologue, and you look at the 2000 Bush v. Gore situation, not very well. But I think the real overarching issue here is that President Trump is realizing more and more that really his only shot at hanging on to the presidency is through litigation, and potentially taking that litigation all the way up to the Supreme Court. I do have to say that most, if not all, of these cases really lack merit, and the hook that they're using here is the threat of voter fraud, right? And Trump has been priming the public for making this argument for the past few weeks. And Shep, we know that voter fraud just isn't a threat to American democracy, right? We know based on empirical data that it just doesn't happen on a wide scale. But what is a threat to our democracy is voter suppression and voter intimidation, all of which it seems like President Trump is really condoning at this point.
All true, fact-based, not opinion. What about the lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania? What legal grounds, if any, do they have there to try to stop the count?
Well, they're not going to stop the count, that's for sure. But there is an interesting issue in Pennsylvania. You know, there's another pending case in Pennsylvania that the Supreme Court declined to take up because the Supreme Court is not in the business of taking cases that they don't have to. They'll only really decide it if it comes down to that margin. And the issue there is whether or not the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania can put through this law that allows for them to count the ballots 3 days after. It seems as though most on the Supreme Court are pretty, on the side of Trump in that regard, saying that, look, it's the legislatures that have to make these laws, not state Supreme Courts. It's actually a similar issue was decided in Bush v. Gore. But I do think that I don't think it's going to come to that. But if it does, there's also, we have Amy Coney Barrett on there now. That's another issue. Is she going to recuse herself? So there's so much to play out. But I think that really the only issue with merit is this Pennsylvania case. And
the bottom line is the president said, I'm going to take this to the Supreme Court. That's just factually speaking, constitutionally, that's not how that works. You begin somewhere else, and maybe it gets there, maybe it does. Caroline, it's great to see you again. Welcome to CNBC.
Thank you.
Officials worked around the clock counting ballots in Philadelphia, in Detroit, in Kenosha, and while the extraordinarily close U.S. presidential election dragged on into its second day, the prospect that Joe Biden would seize enough electoral votes to win the White House looked more and more likely.
It's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency.
The former vice president projected confidence at a speech Wednesday afternoon, but asked for patience.
I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners. Now, every vote must be counted. No one's going to take our democracy away from us. Not now, not ever.
Multiple news outlets called Michigan and Wisconsin for Biden, while the Trump campaign filed a lawsuit to stop ballot counting in the former and requested a recount in the latter. Trump tweeted a fire hose of misinformation and innuendo, implying votes were being illegally added or tampered with. In the early hours Wednesday, while millions of votes remained uncounted, Trump prematurely declared victory.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
As of Wednesday afternoon, the president was clinging to leads in North Carolina and Georgia, though several of the large counties around Atlanta that lean Democratic have substantial numbers of ballots still to count. Of the battleground states, Pennsylvania has the furthest to go in counting votes, and Trump so far maintains a large lead there. Democratic Governor Tom Wolf said many votes remain to be counted, though Trump's campaign said on Wednesday it was suing to stop the counting of ballots there as well.
And there will be no blue states and red states when we win.
But if Biden maintains his lead in Arizona and Nevada, he won't need Pennsylvania to win the White House.